Live streaming. Can I move up here, or do I? All right, I'm gonna stand. I'm gonna actually kind of sit on the table right here, if that's all right. I didn't realize that we were competing with the cow patty drop tonight, and so it tells you who's going to win out tonight. I'll tell you that. But I appreciate you being here. I'm going to go through a PowerPoint very quickly. And then hopefully we can just have a discussion at the end of it if y'all have questions or suggestions about how to make our school system better. We've started these are the first series of community meetings that we've had since the pandemic started. And we were going pretty regularly, having them once a year, and then the pandemic hit and they've kind of been frozen. And so we're trying to start them back. Ty is behind the live streaming, and which always makes me nervous, but we're glad if people can't be here, they can go online and watch this. And so we'll jump in here and get started. And I'm going to talk very fast, but I promise at the end you can ask me any questions that you want to ask me. And you know, something that our school system can be very proud of is since 2015, we have steadily increased our graduation rate and our college and career readiness rate. If you don't know, where do we get, what does it mean to be college and career ready? There are several different indicators that represents, but basically when we graduate young people, we have them prepared to either to take a career or to go to college or do both. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. But as you can see, in 2015, we were in the low 70s, and now our kids that are graduating, almost 100% of them are ready to take one of these next steps, and we're excited about that. Our school system is blessed right now because we have a higher general fund balance than we typically have. For several years, we struggled to have the required reserve. And now, during the pandemic, some additional federal funds and things like that, but we also, because we've been very frugal on our spending, we're being able to do projects across our entire district right now, and we have a higher balance right now than we've had in a while, but we're being very responsible with those funds and spend them where we need to spend them. And the reason behind that is we have great leaders, faculty and staff, and community partners. And I didn't list all of our community partners on here, but I do have a few of them. If you're not familiar with Blue Ribbon Schools, this is an organization that we brought in to our school system about 4 years ago. Initially, it was a very painful process because they went in every area of our schools, from our academics to the culture of the school, to our interactions with parents, to even the customer service when people call the school. They looked at everything. But what it did, it helped us to find our weaknesses and work on those and improve our schools. And now we have over 21 schools that are Lighthouse Blue Ribbon schools, which is phenomenal. There's not another school system in Alabama that have that many Blue Ribbon schools, and we're excited about that. Another one that you'll see on the screen right now is Hope Institute. We have several schools that are part of the Hope Institute Leadership Academy, and some of those schools are here at Good Hope, and great things are coming out of that. The bottom right is a picture of Wallace State. We are constantly adding new partnerships with Wallace State on a regular basis. I'm reaching out to Dr. Karlowicz and asking her, hey, can we do this? And she's like, we've never tried that before. And I said, well, let's just give it a try. And it turns out to be a really good partnership a lot of times. And we've got a lot of young people getting college credit right now, more than we've ever had. And it's not costing them a whole lot of money either. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for our partnerships with Wallace. We're thankful to have Wallace in our back door. The other picture I have on here is with our judges in the bottom right. A lot of people may not know that they take their own time to go around and speak to every one of our high schools every single year. And they talk about making good decisions. And they talk about texting and driving and alcohol use and the different laws that affect our young people so that they don't get themselves in a bad situation. Speaking of Wallace, I know you can't read this, but they'll be able to see it online. But one of the things that I want everybody to know, this past year, we had so many students that took classes either from dual enrollment on campus, or they took classes at the Career Center that they got credit for at Wallace, or some of them we carried to Wallace and took some classes. But all of these classes saved our students over $425,000 last year. that they didn't have to pay for and they got college credit for, and we're really excited about that. One of the things that we started last year, you know, the research says for every student that takes one college course, they're 80% likely to take the second college course. And so my dream is that we get every one of our students to take that first college course and just see if that's something they want to do. I don't believe everybody has to go to college. There's a lot of career tech fields that they can go straight into the workforce. But I don't want anybody not to go to school because they don't think they can do it. And we've had a lot of students that have gone and they've taken that class and they found out that, hey, they can do it. And they've been successful and they continue going. But what we started doing last year is, because we wanted everybody to experience that, all of our ninth graders last year took a college course as a ninth grader, which is unheard of. And then this year we bused them all to Wallace. A little over 1,000 kids went to Wallace this year. Everybody from ninth grade through 12th grade that has not had a college course was supposed to have been in with this group that went to Wallace and completed an orientation class. And the best part about it is they didn't have to pay for the college course. They get one college credit and it's free to them. It cost us just a little bit, but for the most part, they were on a scholarship, and we paid for the materials and things like that as a school system. But every one of these students, over 1,000 kids, got a college credit this year, and we're really excited about that as ninth graders. One of the things that we do that a lot of people may not know is we have a program called Fast Track to Industry and Fast Track to Academy Fast Track. But our Fast Track to Industry students, they go to Wallace and all of their classes dealing with their industry are paid for through a grant. And then the classes that they need to take that are not paid for with a grant, we have teachers there at Wallace in a building, and they go over to them and take their other classes there and get their credits from us as they need to. We're really excited about that program. It's opened a lot of doors. Between these two programs, every year we have about 30 students that graduate with a 2-year degree before they graduate from high school. That's really exciting. A couple of things that we're doing to introduce career tech to students at a younger age. Every student that's in 8th grade, we've started a program last year called We Build It Better, and it introduces kids to be able to, I compare this to what many of our parents or grandparents may have taught us what to do, about using a hammer and using a saw and using a drill and things like that. And so this We Build It Better takes the kids, they have to lay out a plan, they build something, they market that, it teaches them how to do circuits and how to use a 3D printer, introduces them to a lot of those career tech ideas and a lot of things hands-on. All of our 7th graders we started this past year, because of the industry calls for this, nearly every industry across, especially in Coleman County, but across the nation right now, they have some component that requires experience running drones. So we're introducing all of our 7th graders to drone operations, and they have a local competition, and then they take 2 teams from every middle school, and they'll come together in Wallace in the spring and have a drone wars there and a little competition going through obstacle courses and things like that. The kids that are introduced to it in the 7th grade, if they're interested in drones, as a 9th grader, they can go to the Career Center, and they actually can lead to a certification in drone operating, which pays really good money out in the industry world. This slide right here shows all the different things that they do, and We Build It Better for our 8th graders. And if you haven't seen that or visited one of those classes, I recommend you doing that. They're doing some pretty incredible stuff in that class. And it comes with this huge toolbox that has all the tools and everything in it, and for the teachers to be able to teach these different areas, and we're really excited about that. We were actually, they brought it to our attention today that, and I can't remember what state it was that they were doing a presentation. Does anybody remember that? Wisconsin. So they were presenting in Wisconsin about this program right here, and Coleman County Schools is highlighted in that presentation because we've rolled it out to all of our 8th graders, and they're doing so well with it. This slide here, it has to do with our Career Center. As you'll see in the top right picture, this engine, we had Mercedes donate us 5 engines that we brought and donated to the Career Center for them to take apart. The bottom right picture is an SUV that they donated. They also donated a Mercedes car right off the assembly line. And they brought them, they asked all of our teenagers just to take them apart and learn how to put them back together, which made me really nervous. And as I visit there, and there's pieces of these cars laying out everywhere, and they're learning to work on them. But a lot of our students are not familiar with that technology, and this introduces them to that. Wallace State has a program a partnership that they have with Mercedes, that hopefully these students that are being introduced to it at our school, they can go to Wallace and participate in this, where Mercedes pays for their tuition, and then during the summer, between their first and second year, they'll go down to the Mercedes plant and they'll pay for their housing to stay down there during the summer, and then they'll pay them, it's about $19 or $20 an hour for them to work at Mercedes. And then they come back, finish their last year of schooling at Wallace, and then they're guaranteed a job with the Mercedes when they leave Wallace after 2 years. And another picture that you see on this is right on here is where we've redone our nursing program at Wallace, and it is absolutely second to none. We have a full digital operating room with cameras and everything, where they can go in there and practice these procedures, and their teachers can observe them from outside of the room and give them instructions that way. And it's absolutely incredible. A couple of programs that we've added this year at the Career Center. Well, the one program is a lineman school and a fiber optic school. And as you all know, if you have Sprout Internet now in Coleman, it's answering the need that a lot of people have for internet right now. And one of the struggles that they don't have enough people to work on the fiber optics. These lines that have to be split and so forth, has to be somebody that's highly trained. And we are actually training our high school kids to be able to do these jobs. They brought it to my attention today, not in Coleman County, but there was a county close by, an operation that are looking for people right out, with this certification out of high school, that they can get a certification in fiber optics and make $70,000 a year starting out right out of high school doing that. But we also have our lineman school, and I've got a picture of that in just a minute I'll show you. That we're training young people to be linemen, and hopefully they can go on to get that certification and work for one of those companies, and hopefully maybe work for Coleman Electric Co-op one day. Next fall, we're looking at adding our teacher education program up there at the Career Center. And my goal with that is if young people will go to school up there in 9th grade, they'll take some education classes in 9th and 10th grade. Then as 11th and 12th graders, they can actually co-op out half a day and go work back in our elementary schools as aides and things at $10 an hour or so. And and I shared this last night at a community meeting. It's just as important for me, for our young people to realize what they want to do in life, but it's just as important to learn if they don't want to do something before they go and spend all this money on tuition and get a 4-year degree and realize they don't want to do that. But hopefully that's going to be very beneficial to us. We also want to start in this next fall is a cybersecurity program and training people for that. Every industry right now has a need for that as well. This picture is inside our lineman classroom, and as you can see, they have some poles mounted in there, and they've been doing a lot of book work in there right now, but it's going to be a lot of hands-on how to use the tools, how to climb these poles, and how to do the different things. And this is a partnership with Coleman Electric Co-op that we have going on right now. I won't read all this to you, but one of the things that we're trying to do, I know most of you are not as old as me, but if you flash back 25 years ago, it was almost like the idea that we had, if somebody couldn't be successful in an academic classroom, we want them to go to the Career Center. Well, it's not that way, and it's definitely not that way in our society right now. So we don't want our Career Center to look like it's, somebody described career tech as dark, dirty, and dangerous, and we definitely don't want to portray that, because most of our industries are not like that anymore. And as far as their pay, they start off paying a whole lot more than a lot of college graduates earn. So you can see in these top pictures right here, this is before and this is after we've come in and painted and kind of touched these up a little bit. And this whole list right here of things that we've done or in the process of doing. This picture here is our new cosmetology department up at the Career Center. As you can see, it's been upgraded just a little bit, and take a lot of pride in that, and kids are going in there and they're learning these things that they can put into practice now. Another program that we're excited about is the Imagination Library. We also partner with Coleman Electric Co-op on this, along with several other businesses and our public library. If you're not familiar with this program and you have children, or if you know somebody that has children, they need to be sure and register for this. From birth to 5 years old, if they register, they will actually get a book every month up until their 5th birthday. And so from the time they're born to the 5 years old, they'll have several books that they'll have collected. And our idea for this is we can get kids reading at a younger age. It's going to help us in the long run. These are several pictures of our pre-K programs that we have throughout our district. This past school year, we were the #1 district in Alabama for the growth of pre-K, and we grew by more than any other school system in Alabama. We're really excited about that, and it gives our kids a jump start on that kindergarten school year. Mental health has been a hot topic in the news now for a while, and especially after the pandemic. There's a lot of challenges that go around with mental health. While I don't stand before you and say we have all the answers, I will say we are doing our share to try to address some of these issues. And the first line item here is the Go Guardian and the Gaggle. Weekly, we get notifications, I guess daily, I get notifications from this, that at one of our schools, this searches every platform, because we are a one-to-one school now. So if our children are using their device, even if they're at home on their own internet, and they Google or they look up something that they shouldn't be, and especially if it's something about harming themselves or harming somebody else, it gives us an alert right then, and we can intervene with that. And daily we get some kind of notice, but it may be something as simple as they're looking at something they shouldn't be looking at, and it lets us know so we can go in, intervene, and block those sites and so forth. A couple of things on here that I want to highlight. We're blessed in our school system because we have 4 social workers, and these social workers serve as those bridges between the home and the school. And it's really hard for many of you that are in here right now that are educators to teach our kids math and reading if they're not sure where they're going to sleep that night or what they're going to have for supper that night. And these social workers help connect these families to the different agencies in Coleman County to meet those basic needs so that we can teach our students what they need to teach, what they need to learn. We're blessed that we have a Program of Distinction Award winner for school counseling out at Parkside. We have the State of Alabama School Counselor of the Year and the Counseling Coordinator of the Year awards this past year as well. A couple of slides about a family initiative that we've kicked off this school year, and it's all about connecting our students to one another and to adults. You can read these slides, but all of you can have a flashback to when you were in school and the great memories that you have. And probably every one of your memories, whether you were getting in trouble or having a good time or whatever it may have been, is probably connected to some of your peers. And while we have a lot of that, some of that school spirit's kind of wavered a little bit over the years. And what we're trying to do is get people back to a sense of belonging. And so we've created 6 different groups, and they're surrounded around these character traits. And the good thing about them, we're doing it across the district. We have a lot of students in our district that move from one school to the next. And we're hoping if they're in the Loyalty family at Good Hope and they end up moving to Fairview, then we can match them up with the Loyalty family at Fairview, and they can immediately have that connection there. And each one of these groups are actually going to be providing services to another service organization. So I firmly believe that it's really hard to feel sorry for yourself when you're serving other people. So each of our schools within these families, they're going to be working on different projects of how can they serve at these different service organizations. And hopefully you've already heard about our family initiative, and if you haven't, more information is going to be coming. But the whole plan behind that is when a young person feels connected to other peers and to other adults, they're less likely to have those harmful behaviors, whether it be drinking or whatever it may be, but it also increases attendance and increases achievement, and that's what we're aiming for. Wisdom Harbor is a platform that we've subscribed to for our district, and all of our classroom teachers are going to have access to this, and it has a lot of, none of them have been in it yet, but I don't think so, and once they have their subscription or their logins to this, they're going to be able to log in and get all kinds of really good videos and just different information that they can embed in their lessons about character in general. And, but a lot of them are around history and science and different things like that go across the content areas, and it's going to be very beneficial. The good thing about this as well is that families that they want to know what we're doing at school with this, they can actually buy a subscription to this. A single one-person subscription to Wisdom Harbor for the year is like $22. So I recommend families, anybody that's watching, if they can go on there and you can just Google wisdomharbor.com and you can go in there and get you a subscription to this, and you can kind of see the content on there. It's some really good stuff and really great lessons for everybody. There's things specifically for families on there as well, that if you still have dinner with your children, you can watch a 5-minute video and then you can have discussion over the dinner table about that video and help them with their character education. If you're not familiar with, which you probably are if you're watching this online, ccboe.tv, and we have a CCBOE app that we hope that everybody's, and I'm not going to take the time tonight, but if you don't have that app on your phone, you need to download that. And there's a lot of notifications and a lot of great stuff that comes out through the app. But you also, if you have a Roku TV or a Fire TV or Apple TV, you can go on there and find us and download the app through that as well, and watch everything from county basketball or volleyball to graduations and these community meetings and other things that we have going on through that. We also have started a podcast that's Breakfast with Barnett, and that's really just an opportunity for me to sit down and get to talk to young people and different guests, and I get to interview them and talk to them about our school system and things, and that's been a lot of fun. But I want to encourage you to go in, and you can watch that on Facebook, or you can watch that on our channel, you can watch that through our app, but you also can find it anywhere that you would watch a podcast, and on Spotify and so forth. And that's Breakfast with Barnett. This picture is absolutely not all of them, but it's a few championships that we had last year. And I just grabbed a few pictures and threw on there. But we had a lot to celebrate this past school year, and this is just a few of those. This picture is 3 of our state championships that we won last year. Vinemont Middle School won state champions in archery. Cold Springs Girls won the cross country state championship. And Hanceville High School won the math state championship. If you haven't heard, we just completed a new strategic plan that's going to be our compass for the next 5 years. And the money that we spend, the decisions that we make around curriculum and instruction are all going to be directed straight from this strategic plan. And I brought a 1-page copy. It's condensed to 1 page, and those are over here if you want to grab one of those before you leave tonight. That would be great. And if you're watching online, you can come by the central office or come by one of the schools and get a copy of that. But we're excited about it because it gives us a vision and a direction to move our school system to achieve all that we want to achieve. One of the programs that we have going on right now across our district that has affected every single school in our district is the partnership we have with Snyder. Just like where we're at right now, all of these lights have been changed out from, and I'll click on this next slide. You don't think much about it until you start comparing where we were at to where we're at now. And you can see in this slide, this is one of the old lights that we had in our classrooms, and this is the new one. So not only is it a better learning environment, it's going to save us about 50% of our energy bill from electricity. So we're really excited about that partnership. I'm going to show you a few other slides. This is from Good Hope Middle School, some of the new air conditioners that we've put up there. This particular slide may not mean a lot to a whole lot of people, but if you've been in our school system very long, and I know Mr. Orr's here, and he struggled with this when he was at Parkside for a long time, but one of the things that when they built this school 20 years ago, they had the air conditioners in there were too big. So and I don't have a degree in HVAC or anything like that, but so this is the way it was explained to me. The AC was so big it didn't run long enough to circulate the air. So one of the things they were constantly struggling with is trying to keep mold from growing in the school. We had large humidifiers out in the hall for as long as I can remember that was controlling the humidity in the air. But we were able to come back with our partnership with Snyder, and we come back and now we have smaller units that control just that classroom, but these units also control that humidity in the air as well. So we're not having to deal with that. I think it was probably about 15 years ago the mold got out of control out there, and they had to spend almost $250,000 just to get the mold out, and we were still in the same boat that we were in before that. We spent that money to control the mold, but now, as of today, those dehumidifiers are out of the halls, and we've got everything under control out there, and we're really excited about that. Here's some more pictures, just air conditioning units. This is an example of a cooling tower that we replaced that's been needing replaced for 10 years. It was not very efficient at all, but it was so expensive to replace, and we finally were able to do that. Here's another example of how we move from, if you can imagine in your house where you have a hot water heater and you have a large tank where you heat with water. At most of our schools, we have a tank about from here to the screen, a large tank that we heat that water from like a few days ago until late spring. And we're trying to, where we can, we're trying to phase those out, like we're phasing it out at Good Hope Middle School. This one at Fairview, all of their pipes and all of their other HVAC machines that work with the boiler were fairly new, so we replaced their boiler to this condensing boiler, which is very similar to, if you can imagine, or if you may have one at your house, that's a tankless hot water heater. So in other words, it's not having to heat this big tank of water all the time. Water circulates through here, and you can turn it on and turn it off as you need it instead of having to run it all the time. So we moved from being 70% efficient to 95% efficient with these new boilers. Just these pictures are some more lights that we've changed out. And as of right now, I think they've made their way around to every school, and we've changed out every light, inside and out. This picture is our 3 largest projects. We have Hanceville up here. They've got 16 classrooms and a lunchroom. Cold Springs is getting a new gym. Here at Good Hope Middle School, many people don't understand this, but when they built the middle school several years ago, they never built an office complex or a library or a gym. So they've been walking down to the other schools to use those. The office complex was using an old classroom that was converted into offices. So what we're building at Good Hope Middle School now, we'll be able to open up those classrooms and use those for classroom space as that school continues to grow. But we're going to have a gym and an office complex and a library right there at that school. And then what we have in the bottom left right here is a picture at Vinemont Elementary. If you remember, that school burned several years ago, and when they built it back in mind for the kids to be able to get out in a hurry. But one of the things it does, they have students, their classroom doors are open right up to the street. So in order to make that safer, we're going to put a storefront on the front of that, and we're going to close off the ends. So the only way that they can get to a classroom is they have to go through the office first. We're really excited about that. I won't read all these to you. You can look at this, but these are just some of the projects that we've done just recently, or we're still working on. Many of these we've just finished. I'm really excited about our roofs. Not many people get excited about a roof, but I will tell you, 6 years ago when I got ready to apply for this position, we had a lot of schools that had buckets in their hallways where the water was dripping through their roof in the end of the hall, and we were having to put buckets underneath it. About $7 to $8 million later, we've replaced nearly every roof in our school district except for 2. We have one at Vinemont and we have one at Fairview that we still need to replace. But once we get those done, we're going to be in good shape. These are more projects that we're wrapping up, and I'll just kind of skip over this. Here's our next steps of what we're wanting to address, and we've already started addressing some of these. We're going to be updating a lot of our band rooms, family and consumer science rooms and ag centers. we're wanting to add additional school resource officers. Just like here at Good Hope, we now have one, because Good Hope Primary is down the road and away from the other campuses. Now we have a resource officer at both places, and we're wanting to add that at a couple of more campuses. And then nearly every school has that second tier of security as they walk in. The visitors can come to the office, but they can't come directly to the classroom, so we're going to get that everywhere. We don't have it everywhere yet, but we're getting really close. And as I mentioned, a couple of roofs. Vinemont Elementary School still has some window air conditioning units. We're in the process, we've already been in the process of meeting with architects on that, but we're trying to get those out where they can be controlled air conditioning units there as well. And then we're looking at adding air conditioning to some of the middle schools, and we have Good Hope Primary on there. Anywhere that there's a school that, like right now, all of our high schools are air conditioned. So if we have a school that doesn't have access to one of those air conditioned gyms for assemblies and things like that, we're going to try to air condition their gym fairly soon. And so everybody will have access to an air conditioned facility like that. We just opened the bids for a child development center upgrading their HVAC system. And then we're also starting the multi-purpose K-12 buildings. And what is this? Somebody asked me. It's basically a really big empty building that it's going to be air conditioned. It's about 80 by 120 feet, very large building. They'll have air conditioning bathrooms in it, but it can be used from anything from an assembly to band practice in there, for football, indoor hitting facility, archery, you name it. But it'll be one per K-12 feeder pattern. So, we can schedule who uses that, but we can use it for many different things, and we're really excited about that. So on this slide, really I just wanted to end, and I've got a couple other slides I want to show you, but this is a bunch of our students at graduation, and our ultimate goal, regardless whether we're in kindergarten or pre-K now, or all the way through 12th grade, our ultimate goal is graduating kids and having them ready and being prepared to do that next step, whatever the next step is for them. And that's what we want to get to. And we're graduating most of our kids right now. We've gone from where it was just low 80s to now in the high 90s. That most of them are graduating, and people will tell you, our administrators and our social workers, if there's a young person that thinks I'm just going to drop out of school and I'm not going to do anything, we're going to go find you, and we're going to help you finish, and we're going to help you get your diploma, because we want you to be prepared to take that next step and be a contributing person in society. And so we're excited about that. Couple of slides very quickly that I've added, just some blueprints to, like this is the Home Ec and Ag Center down at Hanceville. Vinemont Library that's being added, and we're taking their old library and converting it into a science lab and some smaller classrooms for special ed. This is a welding shop that we're adding out at Holly Pond. We're taking the existing facility at Fairview, that's their Home Ec and Ag, and we're going to remodel it. It's very old, and lots of it are not usable anymore, and we're updating it and remodeling it. This is a picture of the West Point's multi-purpose building, and in every school will get one of these. It'll be a little different. Then I'm just going to let this slide, and it's going to show several things that we've just worked on recently. And then you can look at that if you want to, but now if you have any questions or suggestions, you're welcome to share with me. I talked really fast, I know. Any questions? You probably will recognize some of these pictures, but you may not, because a lot of their entryways have changed so much. But those are storage units that we've added in different places. That's not an actual picture of the Child Development Center's playground, but we've spent a lot of money updating their playground. They probably have the #1 special education playground in Alabama is at our Child Development Center right now. It's incredible. This is an example of several of the windows like this that we've taken out and replaced with insulated windows in a better air conditioning instead of the window air conditioning unit. All right, that's it. So we're done unless you have any questions or suggestions.
Dr. Barnett, I'd like to say this.
Yes.
I've been on the board, this is my 4th year on the board, and I know you touched on this, but I'll never forget our first capital planning meeting. We were handed a manual, and it had like 200 items on it, right? I mean,
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, at least. And it was anything from repair a leaky faucet at concession stand at Fairview to water's pouring at Westmore. You know, and it was major things. It was like, my gosh, we can't, how are we going to do this? Fast forward 3 years, and that would have been your 2nd year as superintendent, right?
Yeah.
We had our capital planning meeting in August, and I was trying to find the date earlier, and I couldn't find it, but I think it was in August, and we had 48 items on the list. Is that right?
That's right.
I remember. And we added 1 item, and it was primary
Yeah.
air conditioning. I thought I'd say that while we were on camera.
There you go.
For our board members. But anyway, there has been so much done that people don't realize. You know, I know Dr. Barnett has had a couple of rough years to start with, right? I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of things going on, but from where we are 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago to now, it's unbelievable. And, you know, it's definitely not all related to Dr. Barnett or the board. It's the people that work for our board. And, you know, I am so proud of our school. I'm so proud of our community. I love it. I live here. I ain't going nowhere. And, but, you know, my background's in real estate, so I've always, you've never seen a community with high property values with a bad school. You know, the school drives the property values. The school drives the crime. The school drives everything in the whole community. And, you know, it starts with the superintendent and then trickles down to the administration and then the teachers and then all that. But you guys have such an awesome job every day that you wake up to go get to influence other people who would actually listen to you. I have to deal with adults usually all day long, and they don't want to listen to me. They don't want to see me. They just want their problem fixed. But you guys are dealing with a bunch of sponges that whatever you're putting out is what they're going to absorb, and it's going to change. It could potentially change their career path or their livelihood. So I hope everybody knows how important your job is. I know it's a job, but it's really not. And I'm so disappointed that everybody here is on the CCB payroll. CCBOE payroll, and there's no community members here. That's disappointing to me as a community member, but I'm sure hopefully Ty's got him over there watching on the live stream. But Ty does a great job. I'm so glad that he's on board with us too. We were quarantined, I think, during the county tournament, but we watched the whole county tournament last year.
Wow.
And it was well done. And I watched Richard Orr learn about volleyball a few weeks ago. You're almost there, maybe next year. But, you know, there's an important vote coming up in November. And in my opinion, it is huge. And if you don't like what I got to say, that's okay. You can cancel out my one vote because that's all I got. But the reality is, the elected versus appointed superintendent is going to be on the ballot. Well, I'm not saying this as a man crush on Dr. Barnett, but the position itself is so important to have that consistency and not be a, hey, y'all get me in, I'm going to build you this. Y'all get me in, I'm going to give you this. It's not about that. It's about taking a neutral look at the needs that are in our community, and I mean district-wide, and applying the funds to that need. It's not going and saying, I went to school here, my kids are going to go and, my kids are in middle school out here, so we're going to build them a heck of a high school, so in 3 years they'll get to enjoy it. It's not about that. It's about supplying the need for every little community. And I feel like, now I have not been on the board under an elected superintendent, but I think I would know how that would go. When a project is getting promised or completed, unfortunately, I feel like, and depending on who it could be, it would be dependent on if I get elected. If I get elected, I'll serve this need. If not, I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna move on. And I feel like, I'm not saying in the past that was a problem. I'm just saying I could see it to be a problem, you know, in the future possibly. And I feel like the projects that we've got going on in Coleman County are projects that are long overdue. I was one of the first classes that went to school in the middle school when it was built on the hill. Well, Good Hope has exploded. We were 2A, I guess, probably when we built that middle school, and now we're 4A, probably not far from being 5A, right, John? So we're busting at the seams. I mean, we can do everything we can do on this campus to make it as good as possible, but you know, we have our infrastructure, we bottleneck coming out of here, but that's something that we can't control. That's the city of Good Hope. And we have a great city council and city and mayor, and they help us as much as they possibly can. But the reality is, we have so much going on. The middle school gym is the biggest project we've had probably since the middle school was built on this campus. Now, the primary school's newer, I guess, but that's the biggest project that we've had. And then the Hansville Elementary, 12 classrooms and a lunchroom. Is that right?
16.
16 classrooms and a lunchroom. All right, that's huge. That's something that we have never done. 3 years ago, when we looked at that capital planning meeting, we were looking at fixing faucets, and we were looking at trying to, you know, just get by. And
it was depressing, to say the least.
It was the most overwhelming thing I've ever had in my life. And it was just a manual of, I mean, it would choke a shred. So going from then to now, whether you realize it or not, we have thrived under Dr. Barnett, but not just Dr. Barnett, but I think it is a lot of the position. You know, this guy answers to the board. He doesn't answer to these people he made promises to, who's going to run him out if he don't get that gym built, or he's going to run him out if he don't do exactly what he says. So I would like for people to consider the pros and the cons of an elected superintendent versus an assistant or appointed superintendent. You still have that same authority under an appointed superintendent if you will strengthen your board. So in other words, you can run off a superintendent with your pressure of your board. But if you've got a board member this week, which I'm not saying we do, but I'm saying if you've got, you can have that same luxury and still keep the continuity of the system and the board in line by having an appointed superintendent. And, you know, if your board member's not doing their job, run them off, replace them, get another one. And it's not, I'm passionate about that vote, because I don't want to see our superintendent campaigning his 4th year of his term, his or her 4th year of their term, because that's time away from the kids, which essentially, I mean, adults have problems, but they pale in comparison to children a lot of times. And you know, I know Dr. Barnett has a heart for kids, and I feel like I know what the guy's about. And I'm not saying cheerleading for Dr. Barnett. I'm cheerleading for the elected, appointed position, not the elected position. So, but if you don't like it, that's okay. Just cancel my vote out. But I'm voting to keep it the way it is now. So.
And for the people that don't know, and there might be somebody watching that doesn't know about what's coming up, and so on November the 8th, it's going to be on the ballot we have been an appointed school system, appointed superintendent school system for about 10 years now. And then on November the 8th, it's going to be back on the ballot, whether we switch back to elected or stay appointed. And I'll tell you, the way I describe it to somebody, you know, it's definitely not about Shane Barnett, because Shane Barnett's not going to be the superintendent for the next 50 years. But we're going to have a superintendent for 50 years, I hope. And but if my grandchildren are going to our school system, I want our board to be able to hire the absolute best person that they can hire to lead our school system. And if they don't do a good job, and here's where if I don't do a good job, the community needs to put the pressure on the board to get rid of me and hire somebody else.
Yeah,
and whoever comes in after me, if we stay appointed, we need to be able to hire who the best person for the job is, regardless if they're from Coleman County or wherever, but hire the best person, and then they evaluate them, and if they are not making the decisions that's best for our students, they get rid of them and hire somebody else. And that's the way it needs to stay. So on the ballot, it's going to say on November 8th, it's going to say, do you want to elect your superintendent for 4 years? And if you want to stay appointed, you need to vote no. And if you want to go back to elected, you vote yes. But nowhere, first of all, a couple of facts that people need to know. There's only 2 states remaining in the United States that elect superintendents, because so many people have decided that it's best to go to an appointed superintendent and stay elected board, that there's only 2 states left that still elect them. Alabama's one. But even in Alabama, all school systems have gone to appointed superintendent except for 36 school systems. And every single city school system they're all appointed. None of them are elected. And there's only 36 county school systems that are elected. And if you will look on academic achievement and the things that they have going on, none of those elected school districts are going to be at the top of that list. Because one of the things, and nothing against, I'm friends with a lot of people that are still elected, but the pressure, once they get into office, they're there for 4 years, regardless of what they do. And then at the end of that 4-year term, they've got to work, as Kerry was talking about, to get reelected. But for your appointed superintendents, when they're hired, they're going to have to perform. They're going to have to lead the school district to achieve some great things, or the board can come in and replace them. And that's where that comes in. So that's something to consider, and that's a really important vote. It's important for our school system forever from now, because whatever way that we decide on November 8th, that's probably the way it's going to stay for a very long time.
It's not that Dr. Barnett is trying to keep that superintendent job until he rides off into the sunset.
No.
He's been you're on 6 or 7 years?
Yeah.
The average superintendent is 4?
It was about 2 years.
Okay.
And it's a little bit longer now.
Okay.
But
Well,
then,
so he's been here longer than most anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I believe that position needs to remain an appointed position, simply because I can't stress it enough. We need that position focused on our children. We don't need that position focused on our adults, promising our adults stuff, promising them this, on things they can't even deliver. You know, if you're running around trying to campaign for a job, well, you don't know that you can't. First of all, you don't know if you even got the job. Second, you don't know how to do the job. Third, you sure as heck can't follow through on a promise you've made while you were campaigning. So it's ridiculous. So, you know, you've got the same recipe for the cake you're trying to bake. Run your board members off. That would be the thing to do. Run me off. If you don't like what I do, run me off. That's okay. I got another job.
They can run for board member. I know.
Please.
I know.
Yeah. So, you know, vote them out, and then. But I think it's crucial. I mean, the slideshow really don't do it justice of what all's going on in our community.
No.
From simple things to, you know, people slip things by, the textbook committees and things like that. But, you know, you can't flip every page. But the reality is when there is a problem, they're on it. this administration, this staff, they're on it, they eliminate the problem, and at the end of the day, their heart and their mind is focused on what's best for the kids. And it's not just the central office, it starts there and it trickles down to the administration, to the faculty, to everybody. So I love this place, I love it, I'm so proud of it, and I feel like we're in a good position. We're in a good position to have success, to grow, and we got the biggest middle school in Coleman County right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect it to get any to change. I mean, I expect to be there, and eventually we're one of the biggest houses. Eventually we're going to grow, and we got to keep up with those and have some forward thinking on the board and then the central office to accommodate that kind of growth. So anyway, that's all I got.
I agree. Thank you.
That's a good slideshow.
Any other questions or suggestions that anybody has? All right.
Yeah.
Well, we really are blessed, and I shared this. We were at Cold Springs last night, and I didn't share this tonight, but when I was there, you know, I know we live in a community where people believe different ways, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to believe, but I honestly believe that God's blessing our school system right now, because we have a board that are making decisions on what's best for kids. And we have school level principals and assistant principals and counselors and teachers that are teaching their heart out, and they're doing what's best for kids. And I think in turn for that, you know, we're reaping those rewards, and we're blessed. We really are. And there's some great things happening right now. And everybody should be proud to be part of Coleman County Schools, for sure. Great way to end. Good night. Thank y'all.